All right. Good morning again, everyone. Hope you are doing well. We are seeing yen at a not multi-year. We're seeing yen at a low or for this year. We're seeing the US yen at lower for this year. We're seeing the ECB having cut rates and gold at an all-time high. So what we're going to look at is in today's video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the yen, we'll be looking at gold, we're looking at all the other major currency pairs. It is going to be a big week right across all the major currency pairs. But first, all right, fumbled with the intro a little bit, but it has been a while. It's been the last we were online. I was online was on Thursday, so I hope you've been doing well. Hope you've been trading well. Good morning, good afternoon, Jimmy. How are you doing? Hey, Diana. Hope you're well. Hey, Jinwei. How are you doing? Well, if you're on the session, do remember to drop a message and say hi. Let me know where you're joining us from. For all the regulars, a big welcome back. Thank you again for joining me on this daily market analysis. Like I said earlier, this week is going to be massive. Why I say it's going to be massive is because as much as it's going to be a little bit quiet for today, we are seeing good price movements despite the Bank of Japan on a holiday for respect of the Aged Day. The Chinese are on a bank holiday for the Mid Autumn Festival. I'm going to be having my mooncakes tomorrow. Anyone tried mooncakes? You like mooncakes? Of those of you who haven't tried mooncakes, you want to try them, right? Let me know. What do you do? Do you go for traditional mooncakes or are you going for the new and fancy mooncakes? I like the traditional ones. I say mooncakes too much. Now, so today might be a little bit quiet, but into tomorrow, we have the Canadians with their CPI numbers to be released. We have retail sales numbers to come for the US. And then a bit of a breather on Wednesday with the UK CPI to be released. Then it happens. Then it all starts on Thursday, early Thursday morning for me at 2 a.m. GMT plus 8. We have the US with the interest rate decision right now, looking at a 5.5 going to a 5.25, a 25 basis point rate cut expected to come for the US. CME Fed Watch 2 looking at a 50 basis point rate cut on a 58% chance for 50 basis point rate cut. So that's going to be interesting as well. I'll tell you more about that shortly. Through that, on Thursday evening, we have the Bank of England with their interest rate decision as well. And then on Friday, we have the Bank of Japan with their interest rate decision. So a lot, well, not a lot, three major central banks deciding on rates. We know that the Fed Reserve is going to cut rates. It's just about how much they're going to cut by. At this point, the Bank of England doesn't look like they're going to be cutting rates. It looks like they're going to stay at 5% with a change in voting numbers. And then the Bank of Japan has been talking last week a lot about possibly increasing rates if suitable, but more likely to adjust the monetary policy stance with a reduction in JGB purchases. So that's going to be interesting as well. What I would tell you is that because this BOJ news or BOJ decision is going to be massive, this BOE decision could be massive, but I don't think it's going to be that much. And then I think that the Fed Reserve is going to be a massive, massive one. Either a big spike to the downside or a huge retracement back up on the dollar index. It's going to come down to what happens on Thursday at 2 a.m. GMT plus 8. So, those of you who are elite navigators on the membership on the YouTube channel, I have scheduled it already. I will be trading those events. I will be going live together with you guys. So we'll trade that live, or we'll trade that live together. Okay. So if you haven't already, check the YouTube channel. There's a join button there. Make sure you join if you want to trade live together with me during those, especially during those 3 major events. If you don't want to, then you don't have to as well, right? Okay, so yeah, if you haven't already, make sure you check it out. Join as a member, and then you can trade live with me. I'll be streaming live for um, the Elite Navigators. Okay, with that, a quick hello and good afternoon to Party Grandpa. How are you doing? Hey, Angel Case, good morning. Hey, West Stone Music, good morning. Thank you for joining me. Now, with all that said, if you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to put it into the chat and let me know. And you can help me out massively by remembering to click on that like and subscribe button. Now, with all that said, let's look into firstly the major news. Okay, today, as I said, Bank of Japan on a holiday. Chinese Bank of China, I don't think it's Bank of China, but yeah, Chinese on a holiday with mid autumn. Not a lot of major news to be released, but what we're seeing is you can see here a big drop on the yen at minus 66 pips to the downside already. We've seen gold at an all-time high. Well, it's broken the all-time high and it's climbed even further to the upside, retracing slightly right now. But if you've seen my shorts, which I just posted about an hour ago, I am thinking going to be a little bit of volatility at this current price level, but we should be seeing a little bit more upside. Okay, now with all that, then back to the CME Fed Watch 2, we've seen, I'll show you this first, because it's been a while since we last spoke. And like Diana said, I saw that message, where was it? Oh, oh yeah. Didn't do anything on Friday, was a bit quiet. It was, that's why I didn't even for the well, I didn't do the live stream. I was out golfing, I was doing other stuff. But I did get into some quick trades on gold as well. Okay. So scrolling back, you see that firstly on Thursday, we spoke on Thursday. On Thursday night, we had the ECB cutting rates from 4.25 to 3.65. What happened with that on the euro dollar? You see, it broke out of that area, right? It broke up the consolidation area to push to the upside, right to that trend line as a resistance area. Okay, it did not push down as we had first thought. We were thinking of that 2 possibilities. It did push up on release of the news. One reason being that, come back here, although they cut rates, where was it? Although they cut rates, no, not that one. During the press conference, right, President Lagarde said decision was unanimous, right, will be sufficiently restrictive as long as needed. Kind of know that. We'll know better where R is as we get closer, not endorsing staff papers estimate of R. No, that was not the headline. The headline I was looking for is that recovery is facing headwinds, recovery to strengthen. That's why they've cut rates to kind of push it along. Fading monetary policy restrictions should support economy and labor market resilience. All right. So what we've seen is that the ECB was performing as expected, cutting rates. So it was slightly priced in the cut rates. didn't even push slightly, or push ever so slightly to the downside before coming up. The other reason was that the core PPI and the PPI for the US, PPI being producer price index, that's the inflationary measure of the for the producers, not for the consumers, climbing slightly. Right, it was a 0.1, got revised down to a 0, expected to stay at 0.1, but it climbed up to a 0.2 on the PPI month to month, while core PPI went from a 0, revised down to a minus 0.2, and it rose up to a 0.3. So that put together led to the increased likelihood, or the increased percentage, for the Fed Reserve to cut rates by a 50 basis points, which led to that weakness on the dollar. And then that's why we saw the euro dollar push to the upside. All right. I was busy during that period. I was busy during that time, so I did not catch this move on the euro to the upside. If you guys did, let me know, put it into the chat. How did you go trading that ECB news release as it pushed up? So that was what happened on Thursday. And then, like we were saying, nothing much on Friday. It was markets were just ending the week at a high on gold, at a low on yen, pretty consolidative across the board. You see euro pushed up, and through Friday it set right across, only right now today pushing slightly further higher again. Now we're all caught up. We're all caught up on what happened on Thursday. We're all caught up on what happened on Friday. Today, a bit of a breather, follow the trend, and then we'll prepare for tomorrow, where I'll tell you more about the CPI for tomorrow. So what to do for today? Let's look firstly at the dollar index. Okay, dollar index, you see here, we talked about this on Thursday, for it to test that 102 level and push right down. It came down. Wait, am I missing something? Yeah, okay, that's right. So it didn't really test 102, but it held that resistance level and pushed right down, right? It pushed right down to almost where we started, where we ended the week before, right? So it came all the way down, and then through last week, pushed up, now coming right back down, maintaining. If I zoom right out, you see that, take that away. You see that it's pushed down and it's maintaining within this range. Okay, so let me take all this away first. We don't need that. Take that away. That's done. That's gonna hold. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take that away. I'll leave that there. All right, so that's what's happened. Dollar index pushed down, and since it broke below 102 on the 20th of August, it's been stuck in this range. Now, what could happen on the dollar is going to be that, as usual, as in this range, we're going to see what happens at 100.55, which it is very close. This dotted line here is the FOMC. Oh, why is it Wednesday? Yeah, it should be here. Thursday at 2 a.m. Okay, this is what's gonna happen. This is the FOMC rates decision line here. So what we're seeing on the dollar as it pushes down towards 100.55. Next level there, makes sense. Okay. So now looking at this, stretch it out. Okay, here we go, dollar index. Today being the 16th. Remember again, no major news for today, right? No major news for today, and the dollar has been pushing to the downside. So what I'm looking for it to do is to come down to that 100.55 level, test up a little bit. I think that, okay, before that, looking at the CME Fed Watch 2, although the percentages are there, it doesn't mean that it always, that they have to um, cut rates based on the percentages, right? It's not always the case. So as much as we say that there's a 58% chance of a 50 basis point rate cut, it's not a definite thing. What I'm looking at, like Richard is saying, dollar usually goes into sideways action before big news event. Yeah, right. Is that I want to see a dollar trade, look to trade slightly lower to 100.55 support. Okay, that's the first thing I want to see it do. Then, if that when that happens, all right, when it comes down to that point, just identifying a few levels. Okay, when it comes down to that point, I want it to stay. What I think is going to happen, it looks like that. I think it's going to come down, test, do that, and then come down to this point. Like that. And then from there, we might see a big rebound back up again. Okay, so I think that if I were to draw the plan for this week, maybe something like that, and then there, and then back up again. Because if you look at an H4 time frame, comes down to this support. We saw it test in July 2023 and had a big push up after that. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. So look to trade down slightly lower, to trade lower slightly to 100.55. Should stay below 101 to maintain bearish. Okay, so 101 is right about here, 101. So it push down, bounce back up. It could bounce back up like that. This is over the next couple of days. Then we'll see it come back down to about this point and then push back up again. So that's what I'm looking for today. Some dollar weakness to continue before pushing at that level, and then we're going to see if it breaks right down, you're going to see it test the support level. If not, it's going to bounce around here and then bounce back up. But for now, slight downside towards 100.55. Now with that, then we look at the Kiwi dollar. Okay, so that pushed down slightly before pushing back up. This was pushed up on the dollar. We saw that already. That's the low. I don't need this point. Anticipating that dollar weakness. I don't actually, I think I've been saying this through last week, that as much as I'm seeing that dollar strength, that dollar weakness, I don't actually feel that it's a good time to buy the Kiwi back up. right? You can see that it's pushed up and it's set there. I updated this trend line and it's still holding prices. You can see that it's slowly curving back down. 38.2 is right there. It's tested in this area. So what I would actually be looking for on the Kiwi is that if it can stay or if it can reverse from this point, I would be looking to sell it down. Despite the anticipation for the dollar weakness, I'm thinking of this as a counter dollar move, right? If we see that dollar strength recover or if we see big downside on the Kiwi, I would say that 6150 stop loss. I want to go a little bit earlier. I want to take it in a little bit earlier, but I feel like it's right in the middle there. Hey Erwin, how you doing? I'm looking at that and it's formed that level. So if you take it there, 6150, stop loss will be quite tight at 15. Take profit will be down to 40 to the downside. Or you could even go all the way down that 75. Right, so you look, what we're seeing is a test, a reject, a test, looking for the rejection back down. So we're looking for that to break back down. I think that will make sense. You can even do a 20. I think a 15 will be reasonable. All right, so 6150, 15 to 75 to the downside with a hesitation right there. Let's do that. We actually have that already. 6150, stop loss 15, take profit 75, hesitation at 6110. I want to see that on the Kiwi dollar. Then onto the Aussie dollar. I was thinking the same thing. It didn't, in this case, it tested, but didn't reject. It tested and broke right up. Take that away. Now, as it sits in this area, you can see that's also the MACD, the TSR MACD is starting to cross or show some likelihood of crossing back down, right? Crossing back down, holding this level, which I would think it's around that 50% level there. Okay. So looking at this, I think that as much as we have been looking at, selling the Kiwi down, Aussie could form that as well. And if I check back on the Kiwi, you see that we also have this trend line holding this trend line as well. So we've got that with a potential break to the downside. And then on the Aussie, similar, we have that, all right, breaking back down. It doesn't fit with what we're seeing on the dollar. So this again is a situation where if the dollar sits there or it bounces back up, then we're going to see that break to the downside. In this case, on the Aussie dollar, 6-7 below 6750, no, 6700, stop loss 30, take profit down to 60 to the downside. Okay, and I like that round number as well. So Aussie dollar, I'm looking at selling down at 0.67, stop loss 30, take profit 60. to the downside. Dollar is holding slightly. Yep, I'm still looking for a little bit of a push. Why it's holding is not outside of the band or slightly outside, but it's just holding there. I'm still looking for that push at least down to this point, like what happened before. Okay, so Kiwi sitting right across has looking for the downside. Aussie sitting right across. Even if it does push, I don't think there's a big upside. Looking at the Aussie Kiwi, we saw it not really test, but we saw it push down. Right, we had a 25 pip move to the downside before pushing back up again. Now at this point, if you look at this, again, it's moving right across. That makes sense. That key level. In fact, I don't even need this, but just highlighting how it's been reacting off that overlap area is sufficient to show that we could be looking for, especially anticipating some downside, a push to the downside. If it breaks that trend line, other thing I'm thinking of is a very ugly shoulder, head, and shoulder back up. I don't, it was going to see what happens down at this trend line area, but I would still like to be looking for it to break down 1.0870. Take profit will be about 60 pips to the downside. Stop loss, because I'm using this trend line, I would say that even if I held it just above that trend line at 20 pips, that would still make sense. Okay, so any questions so far? No, okay. With that, break. Let me see, hold that trend line. It needs to stay. It needs to stay below 1.09. Right? If it stays below 1.09, then we'll look for it to break that trend line down. I would say you go a little bit lower. Go a little bit lower, 1.0865, 25 to 55 to the downside. I think that'd be better as it pushes down. That would be more likely driven by the Aussie dollar pushing down. No, I think the Kiwi dollar at that point has a bit more of a move lower. Between this, okay, Aussie and Kiwi, I would say that it's still quite closely down to going against that trend of the dollar right now, right? It might retrace slightly, but we're still looking for it to come down to this. So it's going to be a bit conflicting. I think that we're going to see it find a direction, maybe even chop and change at this point before possibly breaking lower. I wouldn't be too keen on the Aussie Kiwi. I think that if we do see that dollar recovery or some recovery on the dollar, you can be looking at the Aussie or the Kiwi, not so much the Aussie Kiwi at this point. We want to find it at a good key level before you look for that trade. Then on to pound dollar. All right, good dollar weakness pushing the pound dollar back up. Remember again, we do have the BOE with their decision this week. It's broken all those levels. Take that away. Now pound dollar 38, kind of broken. We'll put 50 in there, or rather we'll keep 50 in there and take 38.2 away. It's found that support, it's bounced back up, it's holding at this point. We have a trend line to the upside with the top there. It's right in the middle. It's right in the middle at this point with no major news. We'll wait till tomorrow to look into it. What I think could happen here, and the way prices are moving, it feels like as much as the dollar seems to be pushing down, it feels like we're seeing some retracements come around. I would like to see that if we see some retracement on the pound dollar push up. I was going to say that I would like to see that test and then bounce back up, but I don't see why it would have a good retrace. And it could, even if you push up a little bit higher, not a lot of trades. You would be looking at 1.32, take profit 60, stop loss just below. I don't like it. I wouldn't do anything on the pound dollar yet. Okay, pound dollar, what you would have is short term upside potential, but you want to be very careful on it. Hey, Lingopedia. Yeah, it broke to the upside. Yeah, I think pound dollar, it would work very nicely on the M15, for example, where you would be trading it to the upside as it breaks the high. Then you would keep going higher. H1, what you struggle with is the levels that you want it to break from. The best guess would be at that point. Then you'll be looking for that 1.32 stop loss. You have it 20, take profit, you have 60 to the upside, like that. Actually, that could form up quite nicely. Bollinger still within reason. Let's look for that 1.32, 20 to 60 to the upside on the pound dollar. Buy 1.32, stop loss 20, take profit 60 to the upside. Then onto euro dollar. We've had that pop up, we've had that push to the upside. Take that away. That's worked out well with what we're talking about, the straddle opportunity, right? Was priming the downside a little bit more, but it did break up to that trend line. Support level 50% retracement still holds. I don't need that now. But what I'll be looking for at this point is if the euro dollar does break above 1.1120. Let me see. That would be about that 61.8 level. Yeah. Break above 61.8. Give it a little bit more space on that point there. Pushing to the upside, you look for it to break 1.114045. Stop loss tight at 20. Take profit right up to 55. Continuation of the upside on for the euro above that 61.8 level. You'll be looking for it to break that area. 1.1145, 20 to 55 to the upside. Okay. Where am I? There we go. We're looking to buy at 1.1145, stop loss 20, take profit 55 to the upside. And it looks like it's going to be happening quite. Looks, I would rank this as one of the higher ones to get into. Right, I'll rank this quite high, but you want it to break past this point first. You can see that the last time it tested and rejected, you want it to close above candle, to close above that area, above that 1.1140 level before you are looking to buy. Okay, so that's what I'll be looking out for on the euro dollar. So euro dollar to the upside, pound dollar is also looking higher, but we've got a little bit more space there. So onto our favorite pair, the euro pound. What has it done? It hasn't triggered our trade. Take that away. It's chopped and changed and done nothing but sat right across on the euro dollar. So that upward trend line is still there. That 23.6 as an interim resistance is still there. We are looking for it to push up, especially if the euro dollar has a big pop to the upside. Now, at this point, what should you be looking out for? Stay within the range only if it breaks out. A little bit of a higher risk move will be 8460. Stop loss 15. Can even be tighter than that. Take profit 40 to the upside. Um, is this a high possibility, high probability move with the way the euro dollar has been moving? I don't think so, especially if the pound dollar pushes up, if the euro dollar pushes up, it's going to again chop and change with a lot of tails and wicks like what we've been seeing. So I would again rank this quite slightly lower on the trades to look out for. I think that euro dollar to the upside, pound dollar to the upside has a little bit more, keeps it a little bit simpler compared to the euro pound. Okay, all that we've had the Kiwi dollar possibly with a counter. Looks like it could push back up as well. Aussie dollar could push back up, but I don't like that move. Aussie Kiwi not doing too much, or rather, we prefer not to do too much on that. Pound dollar, I think that's relatively straightforward as it pushes up. Euro dollar has that upside potential, especially if it breaks above this swing level and at 61.8. But I feel like the more straightforward one, the more straightforward pair, and this has been the pair that I've been keeping busy with, I've been trading so much on, is the US yen, the yen, right? It's just, look at that. It's broken down, bounced back up, sell it back down, and it's just been heading to the downside. And we've had that, which would have worked out very nicely as well. Now, if I just go to the H4, you see that the yen, for a long time, this whole, well, since the end of last year has been pushing up. Whenever it dips, you buy it back up. Whenever it dips, you buy it back up. Dip, you buy it back up. Since July, when we looked at it, when we talked about it in terms of the interest rate hike from the BOJ, with the US CPI starting to slow growth, the inflation growth on the US starting to slow down, we've been seeing yen pushing to the downside. Every time it bounces, you look to sell it down. Right? Every time it bounces, you look to sell it down. We haven't been going against the trend, so it's been relatively straightforward for the US yen. Now, let me take this, let me clear up the chart a little bit. We don't need that. Okay, we don't need that for now. If I look at this right across, that makes sense. We spoke about this on the yen to the downside. Right. At first, we were talking about how 141 and 142 was a good level, where it's bounced off. We've seen it bounce on the 7th of, well, not 7th, on the 6th and the 9th of September. So last week, we saw it bounce back up, and the week lower and lower. So zoom it right out. You see that dollar yen has been pushing right down. Okay, so that support level is now our new resistance level area. We can take away that point. We'll keep. Now dollar yen, I have been selling it down. I actually have, well, one that has been running since last week to the downside. So I've kept that stop loss on more than break even on a secured profit already, looking for it to push down. Now the question is, if you're not in a trade on the US yen already, what to look out for? Needs to break 139.50, sell down, anticipating dollar weakness, so 139.20, no, 139. You want it to break 139, your stop loss will be 50, your take profit will be 100 to the downside, right? Towards that next support level that was where we saw last test in July last year. Okay, so that's what I'll be looking out for if you haven't already got a trade on the US yen. So why is because right now it's at 139.70. In this area, what could happen is that it will pop down, it push back up, and then it will head down that way again. We've seen that happen many times at a key level. And 139 round number is a good key level, so it pop down, bounce, and then push down. So US yen straight forwardly, let's look to go 139, stop loss 50, take profit 100 to the downside. The previous one, we are looking at 150 pips to the downside, so it all works out. If you're already in the trade, stop loss lower, drag it down, take profit, you can drag it down lower towards the support at about 138. Okay? I tend to ramble on about the US yen just because it's trending so nicely. Then with the US yen said, Euro yen didn't test higher before breaking lower, it sat in that consolidation and pushed down. Right now, Euro yen is at the key support level here at 155. All right, key support level here at 155. You can see the last time, put that down. The last time we got to this was again on the 5th of August. The next beyond that, we have that dotted line here. Lingopedia says, I don't trade when my analysis don't align. I can get it wrong sometimes, so just remember disclaimer applies. All right, so we have that point, we have that point there, and then the big support, that all makes sense. Back to the H1, take that away. Rather, I'll keep that there at that point. Okay, so looking at the euro yen again, remember euro dollar looking like it might push up slightly, but the main player is the US yen. It's already retracing now slightly, but we're looking for that downside. So euro yen, we're looking for it to break 155 to trade lower. I don't think on the, as much as I would love for this to happen for you and for me, if it breaks 155 and then you have a 50 pip stop loss, and then you have a big 350 pip move to the downside. I don't think we're going to see that happen. Okay. Um, I think it's more likely, even if you had a 150 to the downside, that would be fantastic with a small hesitation at 154.40. But it needs to, before anything happens, it needs to break this support level on the euro yen. Okay, so downside still within that good. I don't think it's a channel, but you're seeing that downward pressure being applied. So it could at this support level sit there, bounce back up slightly, right? So sit there and bounce back up and then test back down again. Party Grandpa just said US yen bearish channel. Let me see. Do we have a bearish? Take that away. Look at a channel to the downside. It could well be. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no. And that would make a lot more sense as well as it comes down, test the mid level of the channel, and push down towards the bottom of the channel. So yeah, thanks for spotting that out, Party Grandpa. That makes sense. Good spot. All right. Then Euro Yen we spoke about already. Pound Yen. Now Pound Yen, we're looking at this. Didn't push up. Take that away. Take those out. I'm just trying a new thing again. I just gifted memberships to you guys. So go check that out for um, the membership site on the membership portion of the YouTube channel. Okay. Now looking at this on the pound yen, it broke that 61.8 level. Take that away. We don't need. Because it's broken, we'll take that away as well. So we've got a big support here. Remember now, pound dollar looking like it might push back up. US yen holding but looking like it's some downside. So pound yen, if I see that it's broken, but we have the equal low right there. Right, and it's tested that equal low. Needs to break down. I see that point there. I think there might be some move to the downside, but I think it could be small. Look at that, pushing right back up from this point. It is outside of the Bollinger as well. Okay, so still looking for that downside move on pound yen. I would say that 183.50 stop loss will be about 40. Take profit, yeah, 50. I don't like the move on pound yen. I don't see a huge move down. I would say that maybe don't do anything in this area, only if it breaks much lower. Then you say below 183, you're looking at 182.80, stop loss 40, take profit, you got a huge downside. I don't think it's gonna do that either. I think that this point would be reasonable. Oops, where was it? This point would be reasonable. So Richard says, I have that channel. Yes, you do. So Augusto has it now, AYJ, Khalid, and BL, and Ayush, you all have it. Go check it out. That's what I look out for. Pound yen, right? It's formed that equal low here. Could bounce slightly, test this area. We want it to break 183 before it heads lower towards 181.50 in that area. 181.50 will be there. So 40 pip stop, 130 pip take profit to the downside. Okay. Then with that, I think the yen pairs are very good at the yen, US yen especially is very good at interesting. But the next one we'll look at is the US Swiss franc. Didn't break higher as we saw the dollar push lower. Now at this point, we have that. We have it breaking lower to the downside. If the dollar continues trading down, you look at 8430, stop loss 35, take profit 80. I don't like. I think that this looks like it might be a good take profit level, but there are a few hesitation levels that you might want to look out for. So you'll be looking at that 8430, 40 to 80 to the downside with a hesitation at 8400. Okay, so US Swiss franc will be looking to sell down at 0.8430. We're going to be looking at a stop loss of 40, a take profit of 80 with a hesitation at 0.84. A nice round number level. Okay, dollar index still holding right there. Then onto the US CAD, the loonie tested in this area, it's still holding, right? So if you look at this whole move, we were looking for it to break down, but if you look at this whole move here, take this line, see that it's 23.6 right there, it's holding that level. It's holding this level right across. Now, what would be most likely on the US CAD is a retrace, a test, but what you're going to see is a rejection of this whole area. Consolidation, you're going to see it break down from this area. 1.36 is the key level. It needs to break lower, so 1.3560. Stop loss will be about 20. Take profit down, got 50. I would say even no, I would say that 60, 70 would be reasonable. Okay, 1.3560. It's a bit odd, and you should see this as dollar pushing to the downside, but yet we're not seeing that massive move on the CAD as well. So it's still sitting right across. You want to see it break down. At this point, it could also just go down this way. Right, so 1.3560, stop loss 20, take profit 70. Stop loss 20, take profit 70. Okay. Hey Naveen, how are you doing? And now, with all that said, then we'll check out gold. Look at what happened. Look at what happened on gold. It's finally showing that it might push back down slightly, but it's still a bit too early to sell. Okay, so take that away. We were talking about this at that point to push up. We were saying needs to stay below for downside. It didn't get down. It pushed right up past all the levels that we were looking at. Gold traded to an all-time high at just below just below 25.89 or just below 25.90. Right, I was highlighting this in the group that didn't like 25.90, just below that point, retracing slightly. That's reasonable. We want it to retrace, or rather, we need it to retrace, especially for those of you who are trying to get into a trade on gold. A big push up. Main thing, I'm not looking to sell it yet. I have been. I think we were talking about this through Friday, that it's a good time to sell gold. It's a good time to sell gold. We were right there when it was sitting there, and then it's trying, and the next moment it popped right back up again. Now at this point here, I still don't think it is a good time. And it's a bit odd. You see this pushing down, but gold also pushing slightly. So even if it does push lower, we're looking at a key level of 25.78. We're looking at 25.70. All right. Within this area of this point here, if it stays above, we could see it bounce back up. All right. I highlighted 2600 as a round number level that could be a good resistance for it to test first. So retracing could bounce back to 2600 before we see a more sustained push back down. Again, I don't like guessing retracements, so I'm looking at that big resistance level first. So gold, I'm saying that it needs to stay above 25.70. Let me put that into words. Gold needs to stay above 25.70 for to climb and test 2600 all-time high resistance, round number resistance level. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. It might push down, looking at it as a possibility to buy it back up towards 2600. At that point, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything, hoping to see whether we could see a big retrace, a correction back down. It's just very, very odd to see that big upside move, an all-time high on gold for now. We're going to see whether it's going to test that resistance and reject all the way back down. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm going to keep the stream running. We have a few pairs that are getting interesting, especially on the yen and the euro especially. I'm going to keep the stream running. Richard just said there's a nice trend line from September 2, 5, and 6. I'm assuming that's on gold. That's the one we're talking about. 2, 5, and 6 to the upside. Yeah, it's just going to sit there. Okay, so for now, please trade well, trade safe. If you have any questions, the stream is going to keep running. Put it into the chat, let me know. And if you haven't already, do remember to click that like and subscribe button. Let's watch what could happen on the euro in the next couple of hours. Take care now. I'll see you all tomorrow.